Hey guys, so tomorrow is going to be a busy day in our household, so I'm going to get together a Crockpot meal so it can be cooking while everybody's doing their thing tomorrow. So, I am going to make Crockpot country style ribs. So you're going to need your ribs, you're going to need salt and pepper, dehydrated onions, ground mustard, apple cider vinegar, brown sugar, apple juice, ketchup, and Worcestershire sauce. I'm making my homemade barbecue sauce to go with this, so let's get started. So in this bowl I have 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. I am using my homemade apple cider vinegar, which I will try and leave a link in the video so you can figure out how to make your homemade apple cider vinegar. So now to the vinegar and Worcestershire sauce, I'm going to add a half a cup of packed brown sugar. And this is homemade brown sugar, but you can use regular brown sugar, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to take a whisk and I'm going to dissolve the sugar into the vinegar and Worcestershire sauce. So I've gone ahead and added a cup of ketchup in here. I'm going to add a half a cup more. And you're also going to want to add a half a cup of water to this. But let's mix in the ketchup. So I mixed in the ketchup, and now here's the half a cup of water. Mix that in too. Then you want to do a sprinkling of salt and pepper and a half a teaspoon of ground mustard. Mix that all in. Now let's give it a taste. It's so tangy. Yeah, it's got the sweet from the brown sugar, so I'm going to go ahead and set this aside and get started on the ribs. So now we're moving on to the ribs. I placed my 2 packages of ribs in my crock pot, and I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of dehydrated onions. Now, if you have a fresh onion, go ahead and use 1 whole onion in this, but I only have dehydrated onions, so I'm going to use those today. So there's my onions, and I'm going to sprinkle some salt and some pepper. And I also have 1/3 cup of packed brown sugar that I'm going to sprinkle in there. Now, you want to mix this up with your hands to make sure you're coating the meat. All the meat with all the spices. Might take a few minutes, but... And now I have a 3/4 cup of apple juice, and I'm going to add that into my mixture. And this apple juice will hydrate the onions. So, and I'm going to put this in my fridge, and I'm going to actually let it marinate overnight before I put it on to cook. And you want to cook this I probably have about 3 pounds here, and you probably want to cook it for about 8 to 9 hours. But monitor it during the cooking time, because your cooking time might vary with if you have a different amount of meat. So I'm going to wash my hands, and then I'm going to pop this with my lid on. I'm going to pop this into my fridge and let it marinate overnight. So see, so it's been about 3.5 hours that it's been cooking. So let's take a look. Oh, the steam. It smells really good. If you can see the onions have plumped up nicely and rehydrated. There's so many juices in there that I'll use for a gravy later on, but it smells so good. And it has a lot more cooking time to go, but in the meantime, don't mind the dog. In the meantime, let's make some mashed potatoes. I'm making everything in advance so I can just heat it up, and it'll be simple and quick to make some dinner tonight. So let's go. So here I have some leftover potatoes. I already have potatoes in the fridge ready to go, but they're not enough, so I'm making up a smaller batch of potatoes today to mix with it. So I'm going to go ahead and dice these up. You can cut them up as small as you like or as big as you like, depending on your cook time. I like to do as small as possible, that way it doesn't take too long to cook. And I have some warm water in here that I'm just gonna put the potatoes in. Alright, so now that all my potatoes are in, I'm going to go ahead and put this on the stove and put a lid on it, and I'm going to bring it to a boil and cook the potatoes until I can poke them with the tip of a knife and they're tender. And then I'll come back and show you how I make mashed potatoes. They've been boiling for about half an hour, and as I stick my fork in there, it's going right through the potato. So they're tender and they're ready to be drained. So here are my potatoes. I've drained them, and I've put 5 tablespoons of butter in with my potatoes. Just gotta give that a little stir and mash. You can use a blender if you want to get all the lumps out of your potatoes instead of using a hand masher. Now I'm gonna take some milk and splash some milk in there. Some pepper, and some salt. Continue to mash this in until they're nice and creamy. Now normally I would make this with butter, milk, sour cream, and cream cheese, but we don't have any sour cream or cream cheese, so I'm just using butter and milk. Milk. And with the potatoes being hot, it absorbs all the milk, so it makes it all nice and creamy. Also, I have my home dried thyme that I'm going to take a small pinch of and rub it between my fingers and sprinkle it in. Thyme gives it a really good flavor. And stir that in. So now this is all ready for dinner tonight. I am going to mix this with the rest of the potatoes that I have on hand, but I'm going to put a lid on it and put it in my fridge and wait for dinner tonight. So the meat is done. It's been cooking for about 7.5 hours. It's like really falling apart. And it's got like a sweet taste from the apple juice, and you can definitely taste the onions. So I took all the juices out. And here's the barbecue sauce that we made. And I'm gonna put some in here, just enough to coat it. And there is still a little bit of juices left on the bottom. I'm gonna need some more barbecue sauce. I didn't know if I needed to use it all, but apparently I might have to. So, there we go. You want to coat all the meat with the barbecue sauce and the juices on the bottom, because there will be a little bit that falls out of the meat once you drain it and let it sit for a few minutes. So this is nice and covered, and I want to take my lid and I want to keep it on low, and I want to cook this for about another half an hour, just so the barbecue sauce flavor can permeate the meat and you can get that flavor as well as the other flavors you put into it. So I'm going to let this cook for another half hour and we'll be back. So the meat is done. It has been cooking for an extra half an hour, so it's been cooking for about 7.5 to 8 hours. And it's so tender, and right now it's on warm. I'm going to taste some. It's really good. So let's head over to the stove and see what else I got going. So I got some sweet corn heating up, and I got some iced tea brewing in the back. And I'm reheating my potatoes. They're nice and creamy with all the butter and milk that I put in, and it's got that subtle taste of the thyme we put in. So I'll be back when I plate this all up. There it is, you guys. Mashed potatoes, country style ribs, and sweet corn with a tall glass of sweet tea. Enjoy, you guys.